She joined an advanced MMA class at 43. They laughed behind her back, called her a joke, until she made a pro fighter tap in 15 seconds. Nobody saw it coming except her. The rain hadn't let up since morning. Thick droplets clung to the windshield as Kendra Holloway parked her 10-year-old Hyundai Elantra outside Full Force MMA in Roanoke, Virginia. She killed the engine, sat still for a few seconds, and stared at the building. A converted auto body shop. Big glass panels, faded lettering, fluorescent lights that made everything look just a little too sharp. She adjusted her hoodie, checked the time, 6:42 p.m., and stepped out. Inside, the gym smelled like sweat, vinyl, and the kind of detergent used to scrub blood off mats. Kendra tried not to look too long at anyone as she approached the front desk, clutching the clipboard she'd filled out the week before. The young guy at the counter, maybe in his early 20s, barely glanced up. "Evening. You must be, Kendra Holloway," she said quietly. He nodded, still not really looking at her. "Yeah. You're in the beginners group. Orientation's in the back with Coach Dino." "I signed up for advanced," she said, voice steady. That got his attention. He looked at her now, first at her face, then down, then back up again. "Right. That's what it says here. You sure about that?" "I wrestled for 10 years. I know what I signed up for." She didn't say it with an edge, but the guy leaned back a little, caught off guard. "Cool. All right, mats are to the left. They're just finishing warm-ups." She made her way through the gym. Eyes followed her. Not obviously, not aggressively, but long enough for her to feel it. One man with a sleeve of tattoos whispered something to the guy next to him. That guy laughed and shook his head. Kendra took her place at the edge of the mat, staying quiet. Coach Dino, a compact man with a boxer's build and a permanent 5 o'clock shadow, was leading stretching. His voice was loud, confident. He moved like someone who didn't have time for small talk. When he spotted her, his eyebrows raised slightly. "You Holloway?" "Yes." "Good. You're late." She didn't flinch. "Traffic." He gave a small nod. "Line up." She did. 30 minutes in, she already knew where she stood. Most of the people here were younger, faster, sharper. They'd been training in BJJ, Muay Thai, and Judo for years. The assistant coach, Miles, lean, cocky, with an ever-present smirk, ran drills with a small group, never looking her way. But the voices? She heard them. Not whispers now. "She should stick to cardio," someone said from across the mat, loud enough for her to catch it. Kendra didn't react. Not with her face. But her hands clenched just slightly before relaxing again. She partnered with a younger woman named Zoe for takedown drills. Zoe was polite, maybe 19. Definitely didn't know what to make of her. They barely talked. Just movements. Grip, sweep, fall, reset. Again. By the end of the session, Kendra's hoodie was damp, her elbows sore, and her back already protesting. But she hadn't complained once. When Coach Dino called it for the night, she stayed behind. Practiced on the heavy bag for 20 minutes after everyone else had left the mat. From the far end of the room, Miles watched, arms crossed. He didn't say a word. Neither did she. But that was only the beginning. The real tension hadn't even started yet. The second night felt worse than the first. Not because Kendra was sore, though she was, but because the silence around her had grown heavier, like a spotlight without warmth. She wasn't new anymore. She was now that woman who thought she belonged here. She arrived 15 minutes early this time, sat in her car, wrapped her hands slowly, deliberately, then walked straight to the mat like she had every right to be there, which she did. But that didn't stop the glances. Miles was already warming up a few regulars. He looked up, saw her, and kept moving like she hadn't walked in at all. Zoe gave her a small wave. At least one person wasn't pretending she didn't exist. Kendra rolled her shoulders and started stretching on her own, near the corner of the mat. The others gathered slowly, clustering in familiar groups, sharing earbuds or jokes or half-empty protein shakes. She watched how they moved. Loose, confident. The way people moved when they knew they weren't being judged. She didn't have that luxury. Coach Dino walked in 10 minutes later, clapping his hands. "All right, warm-up rounds, pummeling double leg transitions, hip escapes, 3 minutes each." The group broke off. Kendra waited, as usual, for someone to pair with her. No one made eye contact. Then Zoe came over again. You good with pummeling? Kendra gave her a nod. Yeah. Zoe smiled, relieved. Cool. They got to it. The rhythm of practice took over. Grip, rotate, off balance, switch. Zoe was quick, light on her feet. But she didn't have the instincts yet. Kendra didn't push too hard, just enough to keep things real. You've done this before, Zoe muttered between breaths. Kendra didn't respond at first. High school and college, she said finally. Wrestling. Zoe's eyebrows lifted slightly. Makes sense. That was the most anyone had said to her in 2 nights. The drill rotated. This time, Kendra got paired with a guy named Brandon. Mid-20s, big, fast, flashy. He didn't say a word as they squared off, just gave her a tight smile. Within seconds, he swept her legs and took her down hard. Didn't give her time to adjust. She landed awkwardly, breath caught in her throat. You okay? He asked, too casually. Yeah, she said, already pushing up. Next round, she countered his move. Didn't throw him, but she made him stumble. He didn't like that. He came in harder the 3rd time. Full body slam. Not illegal, just unnecessary. When she got up, her ribs ached, but she didn't flinch. Coach Dino called time. Switch! Kendra stepped aside to catch her breath. Sweat dripped down her back. She noticed Miles watching her again. Expression unreadable. Then he turned to laugh at something someone else said. At the end of class, most of the group headed to the locker room, voices overlapping with jokes and inside chatter. Kendra stayed behind, stretching, hands on her thighs, breathing through tight lungs. You all right? It was Zoe again. Yeah, you ever think about quitting? Kendra looked up. Her face was calm, but her voice was firm. No, Zoe hesitated. Cool. I think they're just not used to different. Kendra gave a small nod. Neither am I. She picked up her bag, wiped down the mat near her corner, and walked out. At home, her son Isaiah was doing homework on the living room floor, headphones on. Her daughter Bree was in the kitchen, microwaving leftovers. Hey, Mom, Bree called out. Hey, baby, Kendra said, setting her gym bag down by the door. How was it? Kendra opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of water. She took a long drink. Loud, she said finally, but I heard what I needed to hear. She didn't explain what that meant. She didn't need to, but the judgment wasn't going away. It was only getting louder. By the 3rd week, Kendra had stopped hoping anyone in the gym would warm up to her. She wasn't rude, just quiet, focused. She kept to herself during stretches, nodded politely when someone offered a glove tap, and stayed an extra 30 minutes after every session. Always the same pattern. Hit the bag, work footwork, shadow drill, repeat. The gym lights buzzed overhead, and every time she threw a jab, her shoulder reminded her of a time she couldn't afford to get hurt. But she ignored it. Pain, to her, had a different meaning. It was a reminder she still had something left. In the mornings, after dropping the kids at school and before starting her shift at the call center, she'd lace up her old wrestling shoes in the garage and drill against an imaginary opponent, stuffing takedowns, practicing sprawls, running mental matches like she was 19 again. That garage had become a shrine of sorts. The peeling posters from her daughter's middle school science fair were still taped to the wall, right above the mat she'd duct-taped together. Her son's broken skateboard leaned in the corner. None of it matched. But it worked. This was where she reclaimed her space. Sometimes, while balancing on one leg for kicks or adjusting her base for leverage, she'd hear her old coach in her head. Drive through, lower your hips, control, don't chase. That man had screamed those phrases into her until they were tattooed on her bones. He didn't care that she was the only black girl on the team. He only cared that she could wrestle. Back then, she was a storm. When 18 won her junior year, took home the regional championship and nearly qualified for nationals, if not for a sprained knee. Then life happened. College lasted 2 semesters, a rushed marriage, 2 beautiful kids, and somewhere along the line, the storm faded. But the wind was picking up again. One evening after class, when most of the gym had emptied out, Coach Dino caught her during her solo drills. "You train somewhere?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. Kendra didn't stop moving. "Wrestled. High school, a little in college." "Where?" "Spartanburg," he whistled. "That's a good program. You were varsity?" "Captain." Dino nodded. "That explains it. Your hips don't lie." Kendra allowed herself a half smile. The first real one in weeks. "You ever think about competing again?" he asked. She paused. "Not anymore," she said, catching her breath. He didn't push, just gave a quick nod and walked off. But the idea stuck to her ribs like old scar tissue. The next night, she got paired with a guy named Neil. Late 30s, wide stance, awkward but strong. He didn't talk much either, but he didn't go easy on her, and that was what she needed. She took him down once with a swift inside trip. Clean, smooth. No one else even saw it happen, except Miles. He walked by them just as Neil stood back up. "That was sloppy," Miles muttered toward her. Kendra didn't even blink. "Still landed." He scoffed and walked off. Later, in the locker room, she heard someone imitate her voice. Low, mocking. "Still landed." They repeated in a fake drawl. She didn't confront them. Not yet. Not because she was afraid. Because she had other things to do, but holding back wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, silence runs out of room. By week 5, Kendra could predict who would avoid her and who would try to test her. It wasn't hard. The regulars in the advanced class followed a rhythm, mostly guys in their 20s. A few lean and twitchy like they lived on energy drinks. Others bulked up like they were training for an amateur fight that never came. One of them, Chase Marlin, had become the ringleader of the low-volume mockery. Loud enough for his boys to hear, quiet enough to pretend it wasn't aimed at her, but it always was. One night, as the class practiced underhook drills, Chase whispered to Miles, just loud enough for Kendra to catch. "Bet she's just here for a free trial. Get some abs, post on Facebook." Miles didn't even pretend not to smile. "Cardio queen." Kendra exhaled through her nose, hard. She stepped up to the line and squared off with her next partner, a woman named Serena. Serena was solid. Mid-30s, quick, deliberate. Kendra didn't hold back, and neither did she. "You good?" Serena asked after they reset. "Better every day," Kendra answered. Serena gave a short grunt of approval. That meant something. Later, during sparring rounds, Kendra rotated through 3 partners. She took a hit to the temple, got swept once, landed 2 solid throws, and submitted a new guy with a textbook armbar. Miles called it lucky timing. She didn't respond. But the real shot came at the end of class. As everyone grabbed water and towels, Miles stood at the center mat, clapping his hands. "All right, listen up. Next month we've got a guest fighter coming in, Travis Morales. Pro record, 4 wins, 1 loss. He's running a few sparring demos and a Q&A. Someone whistled. Another guy fist-bumped Chase. "Now, before y'all get starstruck," Miles added with a smirk, "this is the real deal. Ain't nobody gonna be sparring unless they've earned it." His eyes swept the group and landed, just for a second, on Kendra. "You know what I'm saying?" The air shifted. Not dramatically, but enough. A ripple of agreement moved through the room. Zoe looked at Kendra, brows furrowed. "He talking about you?" "Doesn't matter," Kendra said, grabbing her water bottle. The rest of the night, the tension stayed in her chest like a knot of hot wire. She went home, sat in the kitchen while Bree did homework, and barely touched her dinner. "You okay?" Bree asked. "I'm fine. You look tight." Kendra didn't answer right away. She stared at her calloused hands instead. "You ever get to a point where you're not scared of people, but still tired of proving yourself?" Bree shrugged. "Like every day at school?" Kendra smirked. "Then you get it." That weekend, she hit the garage harder than usual. No music, just repetition. Shot. Sprawl. Reverse. Sweep. By Sunday, her thighs were screaming and her back ached. But she kept going, because now it wasn't just about her. It was about Bree, about Isaiah, about what they saw when they looked at her. and about what other people thought they saw when they didn't bother to look at all. On Monday, she walked back into the gym early. No hesitation. She started warming up without waiting for a group. Coach Dino came by. "Morales is no joke. You thinking of stepping up?" Kendra wiped sweat off her brow. "If I get the chance." Dino nodded. "I'll let him know you're interested." He paused. "And don't worry about Miles. He runs his mouth more than he runs drills." Kendra gave a half smile. "Noted." From across the mat, Chase saw them talking. He leaned in toward Miles and whispered something again. This time, Kendra didn't hear it. But she didn't need to, because people always talk the loudest when they feel the most threatened. Tuesday night hit different. Kendra didn't wear the usual hoodie. She walked into the gym in a plain gray tank top, wrists already wrapped, hair pulled back into a tight bun. No fanfare, no extra energy, just focus. She wasn't there to play polite anymore. Her ribs still ached from Saturday's overzealous sparring round with Brandon, but she kept moving through it. Pain had become part of the rhythm. A low drum in the background that reminded her she was still in the fight. As class started, the group huddled in circles, as always. Miles cracking jokes, Chase tossing a resistance band over his shoulder like he owned the place. The same routine, but Kendra didn't engage. She hit the mat with a focused stretch series. Her breathing was even, measured, like someone preparing for something. Zoe came over mid-warm-up. "You good?" "I'm all right," Kendra said. "You've been different this week." Kendra didn't stop stretching. "I just stopped asking for space." Zoe gave her a long look, then nodded slightly. "They don't know who they're messing with." Kendra didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night, drills were brutal. 5-minute shark tanks, constant rotation of fresh opponents while one person stays in. Kendra went third. She lasted all 5 minutes without tapping, without giving up position. She got knocked hard, swept once, but she adjusted, got back to base, and kept control. By the end, her forearms were burning, but her stance was still solid. Miles finally said something. "You're scrappier than you look." Kendra dried her face with her towel, not breaking eye contact. "Good thing I'm not here to look good." He raised his eyebrows but said nothing else. After class, while most packed up and joked about cheat meals and fights they'd never actually be in, Kendra stayed behind again. She hit the heavy bag, low and controlled, combinations smooth and sharp. From the far wall, Dino watched, then walked over. "You've got composure," he said. "That's what I like about you." Kendra kept striking, breathing through her nose. "You think Morales is going to take the bait?" "Oh, he'll spar. He doesn't say no to a challenge." "Even from someone like me?" Dino gave a slight shrug. "Especially from someone like you. He's not an idiot. He watches how people move. He doesn't care about resumes. He cares about timing." Kendra paused, gloved hands at her side. "I got timing." "I know you do," Dino said. "But they don't." She looked at him. "They will," she said. Later that night, at home, Isaiah was already asleep. Bree was sitting at the dining table with a bowl of cereal and a science textbook. "You look like you just came from war," Bree said. Kendra smiled faintly. "In a way. You win?" "I'm still breathing." Bree stirred her cereal. "What are you going to do if they put you up against that Morales guy?" Kendra leaned against the fridge, arms crossed. "I'm going to stop talking about it and just show them." Bree stared at her a beat longer than usual, then grinned. "I hope they film it." Kendra chuckled. "You just want it for TikTok." "Nah, I want it so people shut up." That sat heavy for a moment. Bree wasn't just talking about the gym. She was talking about life. Later that night, when the house was quiet, Kendra sat in her room and pulled an old box from the closet. Inside, her Spartanburg varsity jacket, folded carefully. Next to it, a laminated copy of her 2003 regional title bracket. Her name circled in red. She hadn't looked at it in years, didn't need to, but tonight, she stared at it for a long while. Then she put it back in the box and slid it under the bed. That part of her life wasn't behind her anymore. Because sometimes the strongest comeback starts with silence, not noise. Thursday rolled in with gray skies and cold air that felt like it bit through clothes. By the time Kendra reached the gym, The lot was already full. Not just the usual cars. New ones, high-end ones, parked at odd angles. Something was different. Inside, the mats had been rearranged. The lights above the main sparring zone were brighter than usual. Phones were already out. A few students were filming short clips. Everyone's energy was up, louder voices, more bouncing, more trying to look like they belonged. Travis Iron Hands Morales had arrived. He stood near the front counter, talking casually to Dino. Thick shoulders, long reach, neck like a tree stump. Not cocky, but confident. The kind of guy who didn't need to brag because his presence did it for him. He wore simple black gear, nothing flashy. A small scar above his right eye and cauliflowered ears made it clear. This wasn't a social media fighter. This guy had bled for it. Kendra entered quietly, same as always. She stepped around the commotion and made her way to the corner mat to stretch. She could feel the looks. Not from everyone, but enough. The whispers started again. She caught parts. Hope she doesn't try to spar tonight. Watch her raise her hand. That'd be wild. She's gonna embarrass herself. Kendra kept her eyes on the floor, her mind on her breath. The room was loud. Her head was calm. Dino clapped for attention. All right, listen up. Travis is gonna walk through some drills, give feedback. Then we'll open the mat for 1 or 2 sparring rounds. Nothing too heavy, just live flow. Everyone gathered around. Travis stepped forward, voice even, low. Some of you may know my record. Some of you might not. Doesn't matter. What matters is what you bring when it's your turn. I'm not here to embarrass anybody, but if you move like a rookie, I'll treat you like one. Laughter. Nervous and real. Who's stepping up first? Nobody moved. Miles started to say something, but Travis raised a hand. No volunteers? Silence. Then, from the back, Kendra's voice came out clear. I'll go. Heads turned. Even Dino blinked. Travis looked her over, not dismissive, just assessing. You sure? Yes. More silence. Then someone snorted. It was Chase. You for real? He said under his breath. She's gonna get folded. Kendra stepped forward anyway. Zoe whispered, You don't have to prove anything. I'm not, Kendra replied. I'm just ready. She walked to the center of the mat, calm and quiet. Travis nodded slowly, then turned to Dino. She got gear? Yeah, Dino said, his voice a little lower now. She's good. Kendra slipped on her mouthguard, tightened her gloves, and took position. Travis circled once, relaxed but watchful. Hands up, chin tucked. His movement was fluid, years of training in every pivot. Kendra didn't flinch. She mirrored him, just enough distance between them. Someone hit record on their phone. The room leaned in. They tapped gloves. Then everything moved fast. Travis feinted a jab. Kendra slipped left. He stepped in for a low shoot. Kendra sprawled. He adjusted, circled, tried to catch her with a hook. She ducked under, turned, slid behind his back. In a blink, her legs locked around his shoulder. Triangle choke. 15 seconds. Maybe less. Travis tapped, hard. Everyone froze. Then the silence broke. Loud. What just... No way! Did he just tap? Kendra released him clean, rolled away, and stood up without a word. Her breathing was steady. She didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. Travis sat up, blinked, then let out a dry laugh. Damn, that was tight. He stood, wiped his face, and pointed at her with a grin. You're not here to play. No, Kendra said, voice flat. I'm not. From the edge of the mat, Miles was stone still. Chase looked like he'd swallowed his own foot. Zoe's jaw hung open. Coach Dino smiled to himself. Kendra walked back to her corner, took a long sip of water, and sat down like it was any other Thursday. But from that moment on, nobody looked at her the same way again. The room didn't go back to normal after that. It couldn't. Some tried to laugh it off, say Travis wasn't going full speed, say it was just a fluke. But deep down, they knew what they saw. It wasn't an accident. It was control, timing, technique, clean and undeniable. Kendra didn't feed into it. She packed her gear like she always did, thanked Coach Dino, and left the gym without so much as a glance at Miles or Chase. Outside, the rain had let up, but the pavement still glistened. Her car was waiting, same as always. She slid into the driver's seat, took a breath, and let the silence wash over her. She didn't smile, not because she wasn't proud, but because it wasn't about winning. It never had been. The next day, videos made their rounds. 2 angles, both shaky but clear enough. No captions. Just the raw moment. Travis going down in 15 seconds. Some in the gym reposted it, some didn't. By Friday, the shift had started. When Kendra walked in, people moved. They made room on the mat without her asking. Some nodded, quick, respectful. Others didn't speak at all but kept their distance. Zoe ran up to her mid-warm-up. "You've got like 6,000 views." Kendra raised an eyebrow. "On what?" "The clip. It's everywhere. My cousin sent it to me without even knowing I knew you." Kendra exhaled through her nose. "Not really the plan?" Zoe grinned. "You made a point, though." From across the room, Miles was silent. He ran drills with his group, but his usual smirk had vanished. During live sparring, he didn't assign her a partner. Dino did. Brandon. He came over with his hands already taped and held them out without a word. They rolled for 4 minutes. He came hard, but not reckless. Kendra met him at every transition. No taps, no points, just balance. Afterward, he looked at her for the first time without that weird edge of condescension. "You train like it matters," he said. "It does," she replied. Coach Dino called time, clapping. "That's it for tonight. Good work, folks." Kendra stepped off the mat, unwrapped her hands slowly, methodically. As she packed up, someone new approached her. A woman, probably mid-40s, stocky, wide smile. "I saw the video," the woman said. "You're the reason I came in tonight." Kendra paused. "Yeah? Yeah. I've been thinking about joining for months, but I kept talking myself out of it. Told myself I'd be the oldest person in here, that people would laugh." Kendra looked her in the eye. "They might." The woman blinked. "But not for long," Kendra added. That night when she got home, Bree was already at the table with her phone propped up. "You went viral," she said without looking up. "So I've heard. People are calling you the Triangle Auntie," Kendra groaned. "No." "Oh yes? There's even a slowed-down version with dramatic music." Isaiah poked his head out from his room. "Can you teach me that move?" Kendra smiled now, really smiled. "Only if you do your homework first." She sat on the couch, sore and tired, but light in a way she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about shutting people up. It was about reclaiming something she'd quietly handed over a long time ago, her worth, her space, her right to take up room wherever she damn well pleased. And now they'd have to deal with it. But one moment of respect doesn't erase a lifetime of doubt, and she knew the road ahead still had something to prove. The gym felt different now, not on the surface. Dino still barked instructions. The mats still carried the same old smell of rubber and sweat. But the energy had shifted. When Kendra walked in, people moved differently around her. Some still didn't talk to her, but they no longer ignored her either. The glances weren't mocking now. They were measuring, curious, careful. Chase, for all his talk, had gone quiet. He stuck to his regular circle, cracking jokes, but never about her anymore. That sarcasm he wore like armor didn't extend in her direction, not since the Morales round. And Miles? He kept his distance. But on the third night after the spar, he approached her, not with his usual swagger. No smirk. Just a towel slung around his neck and a kind of sheepish restlessness in his step. "I didn't think you had that in you," he said. Kendra wiped her forehead, leaned back against the wall, breathing steady. "You mean you didn't want to think I did?" He exhaled through his nose and gave a small shrug. "Maybe." They stood there a second in silence. "You're good," he finally said. Kendra didn't flinch. "I've always been good." He gave a dry laugh. "Yeah, you have." Then he walked off. It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough. Later that week, Dino pulled her aside after class. You ever think about coaching? Kendra blinked. Me? You've got patience, control. People watch you now, even the ones who won't admit it. Kendra looked across the gym. A new woman was on the mat. Early 50s, wide-eyed, nervous, trying to follow instructions. Zoe was helping her stretch. I don't know, she said. I came here to get stronger. For me. Exactly, Dino said. That's what makes you the right one. She didn't answer, but the thought lingered in her chest long after she left. Back home, Bree was filling out a college application. Isaiah was eating cereal straight from the box. Kendra leaned in the doorway for a while, just watching them. It was strange. She hadn't won a title, hadn't gotten a medal, but something about these last few weeks felt bigger than anything she'd done in high school or college. She didn't just wrestle anymore. She walked taller, moved different, breathed with purpose. Later that night, she sat in the garage, just her and the mat. The sound of her own breath, steady and familiar. She got down low, set her stance, and ran through the sequence again. Sprawl, trip, mount, triangle. Each move like poetry, not just muscle memory, but intention. And in that quiet space, she smiled. Not because of who she'd proved wrong, but because of who she'd remembered she was. Kendra Holloway, 43, single mother, once counted out, still undefeated in her own way. She didn't need a crowd, she just needed the truth. And now that the world had finally caught up to it, she wasn't going back. If this story hit something in you, share it. There's always someone doubting themselves just because the room thinks they shouldn't be there. Remind them, your worth isn't up for debate. Subscribe for more real stories about quiet strength, loud lessons, and the people who break through without asking for permission.